Yonatan Zeigen, your mother, Vivian Silver, she seemed like a remarkable person. She spent her adult life pushing for change in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, condemning the treatment of Palestinians by the Israeli government, even herself bringing children from Gaza to Israeli hospitals. She was the founder of this organization, Women Wage Peace, and she was killed on October 7th last year by Hamas in Kibbutz Be'eri. Tell us, first of all, through your eyes, about your mother, Vivian Silver, the peace activist.
Through my eyes, she was a pretty remarkable woman. She had this combination of both being a public figure, very idealistic, very assertive, sometimes stubborn. And in the personal sense, she was very soft and sensitive and a very good friend and a wonderful mother.
And look, take us back, if you can, to October the 7th last year. There was a lot of uncertainty, wasn't there, as to what had happened to your mum. Her phone was geolocated to the Gaza Strip. It was assumed she was taken hostage. But in the end, that wasn't her fate. So tell us how you found out what had happened to her.
I was with her on the phone through that morning. At first, it was hard for us to comprehend the scope and the fact that this isn't going to be resolved. So we stayed pretty calm, but at a certain point, we realized what's going on, and we were able to say goodbye, actually, which I feel blessed to have been able to do that. And then I was sure she was killed. But as the hours passed and nobody found a body, she was considered a hostage. More than a month later, archaeologists were able to find her remains at her house in the safe room where she was hiding to begin with.
Mm. And I know that since then you have gone back yourself to the kibbutz, to Kibbutz Be'eri, where your mother lived, where you grew up, and where, as you say, she was murdered on the 7th of October last year. It's worth emphasizing, one of the areas in Israel hardest hit by Hamas that day. More than 100 people were killed there. How does the community there live on now, a year after those attacks?
I call it a heartbreak in present progressive. It's a community in crisis that is, on the one hand, is in mourning, and on the other can't really mourn because there are still hostages in Gaza, and they are not living in their own homes because they're displaced still. And it's a loss of people, of a community, and of a physical space. That is, yeah.
And I know that official commemorations will be held in Israel for October 7th to honor the Israelis killed, including your mother, and to honor those who were taken hostage into Gaza. I wonder what you make of those official commemorations.
You mean the government ceremony?
Yes.
I think it's a sadistic ceremony. I don't approve of it. I won't cooperate with it.
Can I ask why?
Because it's done opposing the communities and the families, and not together with them, without any respect to their wishes or to the way they want to do it. And the person, that is least appreciated was hired to do the ceremony itself. I think that was on purpose. Despite families.
Let's talk a bit more about your mother, Vivian Silver, because she was such an unusual Israeli, wasn't she? She had friends in Gaza. She had Palestinian friends. Tell us, if you can, a bit about those relationships. I don't know, for example, if you yourself are in touch with any of those people now.
I'm in touch with a few. Most of her colleagues left Gaza a long time ago because she wasn't cooperating ever with Hamas. So, and Hamas had internal enemies in his mind, in the organization's mind, in the Palestinian people. So she worked since the 90s with Palestinians in Gaza, in the West Bank, with Palestinians who were civilians of Israel. That was her main work.
And you've described before about how she taught you and your brother about the occupation, about the Israeli besiegement of Gaza. But in the years before October 7th, for you, actually, politics took a bit of a backseat. You have a young family you were busy raising, and you didn't always have your mum's determination to go out to these protests all the time, to push for peace with the Palestinians. You've used the phrase, which I really like, talking about being in a political coma. But that changed for you after your mum was killed a year ago. You decided, I think it's fair to say, to carry on your mum's legacy. You quit your job. You've become a full-time campaigner yourself. Just tell us a little bit about that transition that you have personally made now to step into your mother's shoes.
Well, before October 7th, I tried to hang on to this fantasy of leading a normal life in a place where life isn't sustainable. And October 7th burst that bubble for me. And it was really strong before and after effect in my life. And I felt an urge and a sense of responsibility to become invested in change. Because, as I said, it doesn't matter what you do in your day-to-day when life itself isn't sustainable, when the system itself is broken. So it made me feel like I can't ignore it anymore, that I have to be engaged in trying to contribute what I can in order to fix the system.
And of course now Israel is marking a year since the October 7th attacks, 1,200 people killed, your mother among them. In Gaza, people will be marking something like 41,000 people killed as well this week. I wonder what you make of Israel's war 1 year on now.
I think it's atrocious in every sense, because it's also immoral and also not in the Israeli people best interest. So it's immoral towards the Palestinians, and it doesn't serve any purpose to the Israelis. And in that sense, it's just 100% negative. And it's heartbreaking and sad and maddening.
And I imagine you are a relatively lonely voice in Israel now with a message like that. I'm interested in how it is that you reach Israelis who don't agree with you, who think that this is very much still the time to continue the war in Gaza, who are angry and who think Gaza gets what it deserves. What's your message to Israelis like that?
With Israelis, I tend to put an emphasis on the interest-based thinking of what does it bring us to continue the war. what does it, how does it contribute to our security to have tens of thousands of Palestinians being killed or hungry? Will it create a situation where these people, now kids, will they grow up caring about us as human beings, caring about our security, having motivation to become more peaceful? Will it eliminate Hamas? No, we can't defeat an idea with military force. So, I talk about the fact, in my mind, the fact that the only way to achieve security is to transform your enemy into your partner. There is no wall that is high enough. There is no weapon that is sophisticated enough in order for you to achieve security when your enemy is determined to kill you. And if you don't create a reality where your enemy doesn't have that motivation to kill you because they care about other stuff, because they see you making an effort to change the circumstances, then you will never be secure.